Hello there, you're watching and listening to another Scoutcast on www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and my name is Mark.
And my name's Jonty.
My name's Andy.
And my name's Luke.
Welcome back, Luke. Welcome back to the Scoutcast. It's been a few weeks. I hope your season is going well. We're going to catch up on that and all your Sky business later on. But first of all, welcome to Joe and Andy as well. Game week 34 is over, 35 ahead of us. We're nearly there, aren't we?
Well, it's not over. Yeah, we've still got loads of action in game week 34 to come, and who knows what can happen? Perhaps Middlesbrough might score. Who knows?
Wow, strange things. This is the business end of the season. This is the bit where the double game weeks and the chips come into play, and no doubt we'll be talking about them again. We're talking about Alexis Sanchez, aren't we, for the 17th week in a row? I guess, Jonty, is that right?
Yeah, but in the context of comparing it with Eden Hazard, and is it possible to have both? And for those tight of cash, do you want to just get one? That kind of thing.
What else is cropping up? Bournemouth and Southampton, South Coast special?
Yeah, we're looking at that, and particularly those single game week teams. People are reluctant to get rid of. People have been burnt by this week already, and Jamie Vardy as well. Appearing on lots of wild cards.
Yeah, his name was brought up with me today, and I was like, yeah. I mean, he is kind of like a perfect explosive differential for the end of the season, isn't he? With those 237s, going to start both matches, so could be interesting. Vardy again. Let's have a party. Okay, let's get going. The game week. We haven't got rough and smooth this week, but plenty of rough and smooth amongst us, I believe. Luke, you took an 8-point hit, but 42 points. Benteke, wasn't it? Benteke, tell us about it.
Yeah, Benteke captain. Happy with that, obviously. I was always going to do that. Lukaku to Benteke. I did it really early for the price rise. I just didn't fancy Lukaku away from home at all. Benteke is the only one I thought would get 180 minutes, which still obviously remains to be seen. But he was the only one I was confident was definitely going to get 180 minutes. And with Liverpool's defence, I don't know. At one point, I thought Lucas was going to play there, and obviously with his stats in the box, his physicality, I thought he'd cause them problems. Old team as well. Luckily, it just worked out. Could have obviously gone the other way. Did Negredo in -4 for Ibrahimovic. That was not so good. But I guess it's with Swansea in mind as well, because Ibrahimovic is not going to play, so it's kind of 2 points, isn't it? And David De Gea in for Djokovic. I was always going to do that. Again, with the 3 games in mind, I didn't think Hull would get a clean sheet. They only had 3 all season, but they went and got one. But luckily, David De Gea matched him, so it's not that bad overall. Yeah, so pretty happy.
Yeah, decent. And you weren't here last week, obviously, when we were talking about Negredo, Benteke, Ibrahimovic. It was before the Ibrahimovic injury, which obviously made quite an intense debate and cleared all that up. But I was in the camp of not getting Ibrahimovic and captaining Kane. But in the end, I went Benteke for the very reason that you outlined there, which was the news that perhaps Lucas could end up playing in the back 4. Matip was injured as well. They both trained on their own, I think, on Saturday. Came through in the end, but it didn't make any difference. Benteke still delivered. It was a weird match. They couldn't handle him. And Set Peters, again, massive failing. Andy, you got Benteke as well. 34 with a 4-point hit. Are you all right with that?
Yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I captained Negredo in the end, so I contradicted myself a bit last week. I said if I didn't have Ibra, I would captain Benteke. And then I also said that if I could swap Benteke to Negredo, I would. So when I bought Negredo in, I thought I better captain him. I basically went fixtures over form, and it hasn't worked out so far. Bit of hope that it's Sunderland next, but I'm not holding out too much hope for that. But I did a 4-point hit, basically. I took out Lukaku as well for Negredo, which everyone obviously thought was a bit crazy. And fair enough, he scored a lot of goals, but his away record is not great at the moment. And I bought in David De Gea for Heaton. So I've cashed the money on Heaton now. I won't be getting him back. I've already made the hit back on that, so anything De Gea gets now is a bonus. Otherwise, double game week players haven't really done much so far. Josh King's probably my standout. Played him, but I've benched Son, so that could punish me next week.
I think I'll be all right with that. I wonder whether
I'm hoping he doesn't play. I got a feeling he might not play, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, he played him at wing back, didn't he, at the weekend? He's tried him out of that. So I think Davis will come back in. There was no injury with Davis. He's confirmed that today. So I think Son might get rested. That's the only one I think Spurs could rest. But they may go back to a 4. Let's see. It's going to be interesting. Interesting to see what they do. Obviously going to 3. Jonty, not great this, is it? 23 in Negredo captain. Tell us all about Negredo, because obviously after 20 minutes of that Bournemouth game, you must have been in absolute agony. Ramirez sent off, and with him, any hope that Negredo was going to get any chance? Well, he got a couple of shots, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I wasn't really listening to it. I wasn't around then. I only found out afterwards, so I didn't go through that pain there. But I've been asked by lots of people, because of my well-known hatred of Borough, why I got Negredo in.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, obviously, I was going to get Ibrahimovic in. That wasn't going to happen. So I was looking at Carroll being red flagged. I had enough to get either Negredo or Rashford with no hit. I could have got Benteke in with a hit, but it would involve getting rid of another player that I possibly didn't want to get rid of. So I just went for Negredo. The reason I went for Negredo is the same as Andy, really, form over fixtures. I mean, I didn't really fancy any of Benteke, Negredo or Rashford. I didn't think Rashford was going to play the Burnley game, and so that was right. I thought that I think the next game is the better game for Negredo. But reasons I got him, well, I mean, basically, yeah, Borough are terrible. They're a terrible attacking side. But Negredo has got goals. He has got scored. He's got 3 double-digit hauls. He's got goals against Stoke, Leicester, Swansea, West Brom, Hull, and even Arsenal. So there's a range of teams there as well. He was taking on 2 teams. He's taken on 2 teams with the worst defence record over the last 4 going into that as well. So between them, they conceded 17 goals. So I was factoring in the lower threshold of Borough actually managing to find the net or some attacking attempt, but also the fact that these sides really concede a lot. It just didn't work out with Bournemouth. Sunderland to go. Now that's going to be key, really. I still think he could get something from that. But as I said, that's why I went for him. It was pretty much the makeup of my team. If I had an unlimited budget and I was offered the choice of Benteke, Negredo and Rashford, it would be easy for me to say Benteke now because he's done well. But I would say Benteke because he's the best player, and as Eddie would be playing, he's nailed on. And Rashford, I just only thought he'd get 1 game. So, you know, and that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think this is going to go out. The recording's going to go out after the Borough game. I think he can get something out of the Sunderland game. The support for Negredo was extraordinary. Like on the Friday, going into the Saturday's deadline, he was the most transferred in the last 24 hours. Massive swell of support for him. And in the top 100, he was the top captain pick. 27 of the top 100 went for Negredo, and then 20 went for Rashford. So there was some. It was a game. It's just as we predicted. Once Ibrahimovic was out of the equation, this game week has really split a lot, hasn't it? A lot of the top managers, or a lot throughout mini leagues, I would have thought.
Well, I mean, the thing is with Benteke as well. So you both of you captain him there, but he was the only player with a 10% ownership to get a double-digit haul so far in the double game week. So whilst he was a game changer for some, I mean, so for example, in my mini league, which is what I'm targeting at the moment, I think it was only one of my rivals actually had him and didn't captain him. So Benteke, I saw the Benteke goals. I was like, oh no. Then I checked my mini league and no one had him. So it was great. So it didn't actually affect me. So I'm okay with phew about that. So Benteke is free to score more. I don't really mind now. But I was going to say the other part of to be honest, the Negredo captaincy is not the big story for my game week. The real one is points on my bench. I was gonna, once I found out Valencia wasn't going to be playing for the Burnley match, or rather, I was thinking, I'll put Daniels back in, and I kind of never got around to it on the Saturday. Then I thought, I might as well just leave it because
never got around to it.
Well, I just thought,
what else have you got to do in life?
Busy with family stuff at weekends, so I kind of got distracted. But then I just thought,
where you're going wrong.
It didn't really matter because maybe he might get a clean sheet. And then, but I didn't realize. Basically, we were talking earlier before we go on. When Bournemouth go mad for goals, a whole lot of them. It's like they play rush goal. It's like everyone, Boric, the back four, all of them just steam in and it's goals, and so you get like Mark Pugh getting goals, and God knows who else. And I'm surprised Harry Redknapp didn't just pop onto the pitch and start scoring as well. And
I did warn you. I did see Chaz turn up. And
so
you said, "Oh, he'll be my first sub."
Yeah, so I wouldn't have got Daniels in for Alonso. I think Alonso trumps Daniels. And I've got Patrick Van Aanholt as well. So that I did that for see what happens with that one. Valencia was the one really. So I didn't. So but I'm not alone. There's a whole bunch of us who are all hoping, all sending flu and cold and all sorts of like mild ailments. We don't want a serious injury or anything to Valencia, but we would like him to be a bit ill. So yeah, not Mark Hughes has got Alonso, Holgate, and Josh King on his bench. 21 points.
He can't lose, can he, if he don't turn up?
So he's hoping Valencia gets a rest, so one of those will come in. Eric Klump, he's got Daniels on a bench. A lot of people saying, why did you bench Daniels? But it's only me and Eric Klump have actually got Daniels as far as I can see. No one else. It's all these non-Daniel owners. They don't know what it's like with Daniels. They don't know what goes through your mind. And then FPL Dave Maguire's 9 points on his bench. Another one wishing the cold Valencia's way. Steve P. Holgate's 8 points on the bench. And Beardo MNL, 12 points on his bench in total. Another one wishing colds off to Valencia.
Not going to happen, is it, Andy? He's going to play at City for sure.
No, he will play, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's almost a must. Unless he picks up an injury between now and then, I think he's going to full strength team.
Were you surprised, Andy, by the Rashford interest? Because we didn't obviously go on air. We were on air before the Ibrahimovic injury surfaced. But the clamour for Rashford after that was incredible. And yet, in hindsight, surely it was pretty obvious that there was a chance he would get rested at Burnley. Were you surprised by it?
I wasn't surprised that people went for it, because as soon as any of the top teams' second strikers up for grabs for a cheap price, especially with a double game week, I actually thought there was a chance he'd play both games, because he's fairly young. He's missed quite a few games, although I've seen that he's actually played the third most amount of games behind Pogba and Ibra.
Yeah,
I actually thought he was going to possibly start both games, but I still didn't fancy him, because I said last week when I was talking about captain and bringing him in, maybe. I think he said he was going to bring him in last week. I just don't really rate him that high, and I think he could do something against City, but I think Benteke or I was even thinking I bought in Negredo, so I even put Negredo ahead of Rashford, bearing in mind I thought Rashford was going to start. So we'll see against City, but I don't know. I'm completely off Man United now. I think.
Well, this is it.
This is like Liverpool from last year. It's just no point going.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's come out and said now, as I expected, it's all about the trophy. They're going to chase Europa League. That's the one. They got 25% of winning. They got no chance of winning the league, so they're going for the trophy. So what's that mean for the Swansea game? What kind of a team?
Yeah, but the thing is, a couple of days before that, he said we're going to keep chasing the Premier. Obviously not the title, but top four while it's still mathematically possible. And obviously, if we beat City, then and Liverpool lost as well. So we got a pretty good chance of getting that now. So it's kind of just all up in the air. I think the Swansea game, it's a worry really if you've got any assets. I mean, I've got De Gea, so I'll keep him. Valencia, I'm not 100% certain he's going to start that game, to be honest. And Rashford possibly even the same. So I think, especially for those with wild cards, once you wild card, you get rid of Man United assets. I think it's just Liverpool from last year.
Luke, what's your thoughts on United? You're a fan. I mean, game week 37. Are you shopping for their assets, or is it a write-off like Andy says?
Well, I've already got three of them. I've got David De Gea, Valencia and Rashford, so I'll just sit it out and see what happens. I mean, Mourinho sold us down the river before. It could all be mind games for all we know. I think it's a similar situation. If you've got them, I'd just keep them and see what happens. You can't ship them out home to Swansea on the basis that you might rest them. You've just got a chance, haven't you now? I certainly wouldn't be looking to bring him in. On the Rashford thing, I think a lot of those people there will have already had Ibrahimovic like me. So I think it's easier to make that swap when you've already got him. You're saying how could people target him? I think it will probably be the majority of those people who have done it rather than, just bring him in afresh, because it's essentially -2 in your head, isn't it, to do Ibra to Rashford? I mean, everyone who's more of a casual, so to speak, will just think, well, Rashford will come in. That's obvious. There's no one else who's going to start up front. So I think that kind of explains that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, as I've said, just sit tight for Swans, I think. Who knows what's going to happen? He sold us lies before, so...
Yeah, it wasn't just that. I mean, Rashford was captain by 20 of the top 100. I mean, so that it was a game week which sent everyone into mild panic, I guess, in terms of we found ourselves captaining players like Negredo, Rashford, and Benteke, who there's no game week in the past where we can look at it and think they would be the top three candidates. Once Ibrahimovic was out of the frame, all bets are off, wasn't it, John? It was panic Saturday morning. I mean, I was still touch and go where I was going to go Kane or Benteke even then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did a Friday evening Negredo in, but yeah, it threw me slightly because I was all set for like hits basically. I was set for a hit and I was going to do lots of moves. Perhaps Sanchez would have gone out, so maybe it would have been really costly.
Yeah, I was going to wait, see if you did that. But.
Yeah, so it would have been Sanchez really, because he's not. I mean, yeah, he's got mini form at the moment, but he's not worth his price tag. But yeah, there were some crazy things going on, and I could tell in some of my mini leagues, it's so different, completely different take on it. People getting all sorts of players in, and some not even. But the captaincy as well. Lots of people switch to a single game week account, because we're going to come to single game week options. And I've noticed in some of my leagues, there's quite a few Kane, Sanchez captainers, Hazard captain as well. They did very well. They did well tonight. I haven't seen any Costa captainers, but they've obviously done spectacularly well. And yeah, because they were thrown, because you had a plan and the plan's gone out the window. And it's difficult when you've got your price structure. Like with me, I couldn't have got a Benteke in without hits. And once you start looking at that, you're looking at surgery.
Yeah, I think it was obviously the late call on the Ibrahimovic injury. It was just almost typical of this season. A player like Zlatan, who hardly ever picks up an injury, 24 hours before the deadline, gets an injury which ends his season. Just couldn't see it coming, could we? And I think that probably did add to the panic. It's like, what do we do now? We've got 24 hours to make our minds up. And I can see why you'd go to Rashford under those circumstances. It's a like for like. But Mourinho playing, he dealt us a bad hand with that team sheet again. And who knows? Let's see what happens with Swansea. Okay, let's get on to the community questions. Single game week options. Lots of questions on this, John T, I believe. And Bournemouth are going to come up again. Josh King, Daniels, etc., I imagine. Yeah,
so, I mean, Badge Villa has kind of put it into context, saying, do we get wildcard missed in our eyes with the excitement of a double game week? He was originally thinking maybe 15 or so double game week players. But he's just wondering, is that credible? Is that possible? And he's come to the conclusion, I think a lot of people have really, that it needs to be balanced out with the single game week players too. You can't just go fully double game week. We've all been burned before. And Andy mentioned Liverpool last season. And there is the case in point. Lots of good single game week options went out the window. Liverpool players didn't even play. So yeah, I mean, Pep says about Daniels being a good option. Especially his price bracket. Well, I mean, before we went on, Mark, you mentioned that in terms of value, in terms of kind of points per pound, he's right up there. And Crazy Legs says Josh King, is he still worth holding on to, considering he doesn't have a double game week? Well, former fixtures say, yeah, do not let him go. And then Pep says again, he's after Sigurdsson, worth holding. And now he's on track to return. In reverse fixtures, we highlighted last week that the previous, I think it was 5 or 6 game weeks, he hadn't scored in the reverse fixtures of those matches. And in the next set of fixtures, he scored in pretty much all of the reverse fixtures of them, as was proved. So he got attacking returns last week. Manchester United up next, and who knows who they're going to have in defence. So maybe onto something. And Beza says, do we now keep Benteke for the duration? Looking purely at form there.
Yeah, no, this is it, isn't it? It's really, do we start sacrificing form assets that have got a single game week in order to pursue the idea, the concept of having 15 players bench boosted for game week 37? Anyone who started to look at game week 37, and let's face it, most of us have in the early hours of the morning, I imagine, like say at 4 o'clock in the morning, got the laptop out and started building the game week 37 team. We've all done it, haven't we? Yeah, not just me. Realises that you need single game weekers in there, I think, and value like King, you can't turn that down. So, in my view, yeah, I think Badge Villa speaks very wisely. I think it's going to have to be a balance between getting the players that we think are going to give us 2 starts in game week 37 and sticking with some of the stronger single game week options, Benteke's form, King's form, and so on. Because that's the thing for me. I look at 37 and think, well, how many of these players do we really think we're going to get 2 starts from? Because at that stage in the season, if Chelsea had won the title, for example, if Spurs don't win at Palace, if they lose, and Chelsea can get the title won by game week 37, what are we going to get from them? The likes of Alonso and Hazard and Costa may not get 2 matches. That's just the start of it. I mean, that's the uncertainty. So we've got to be careful here. What's your views on this, Andy? What are you looking at? Do you realistically think we're going to get 15 out of the bench boost?
Almost definitely not. Especially like I've looked at for my own personal team. I just don't have the team value to do that, I don't think. So I've done a mock-up for now. I think it'll probably change by next week. But King is definitely in there. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's in great form. He's got great fixtures and he's a great price. So I just can't see me getting rid of him. At that kind of price, you're looking at like players like Redmond, who didn't start tonight, and Albrighton. I don't know about bringing them in. I think for someone who's usually all 4 double game week players, I think I'm going to keep King. And then Someone like Holgate as well, just for his price and his fixture in game week 37, I think he might be in my team. So I'd say probably 2 or 3 will be single game week players, but other than that, I'm still going to try and get 11 to 12 out. But I think there's good value there, and I think if we try and get, like you say, 15 double game week players, the chance of them all starting anyway, it's pretty serious. Like if you take Man United out of it, and Man City maybe won't now they're out the cup. But you know what Pep's like, so it's tough. Looking at it, I think definitely have to have a few single game week players in there.
Luke, what's the situation with the chips? Because obviously you haven't been on for a while. Do you have the bench boost in hand and the wild card, or what are you going in with at the moment?
Yeah, I've got wild card and bench boost. Saved them for this week. Like I think all of us have, haven't we? I think we've all done that. I just got to echo Andy's thoughts really there. I really want to have 15 double game week because that's what we saved it all for. I really want to do it, but I've looked through it and it just, I can't really make it work. There's a few, it comes down to Sanchez and Hazard and people like that. If you sort of choose not to go with them, you can do it with a reasonable team, I think. But then you just think, if Sanchez or Hazard go crazy as captain, it's just completely blown out of the water. You've also got to factor in game week 38. I think people are forgetting about that. If you go in with a team that's just like full of double game weekers and it comes to 38, we don't know what's going to be going on, what the situation is for most of those teams. You could be left with 7 or 8 dud players in your team. So I don't know. I really think you've got to bear that in mind for 38. I mean, Josh King, people like that, they're not so bad. I think Lukaku's playing Arsenal in 38 away from home. So I think that's right. I could be wrong on that, but Lukaku home to Watford, he's the one who scares me the most.
That's the fixture. Yeah.
But then I think, do I want him for 38 against Arsenal? I don't know. So it's so hard. There's so many decisions to be made.
He does love a final day. Remember the hat-trick against United?
Yeah, exactly. And Arsenal with the old, they're playing 3 at the back against Lukaku.
Cup final as well for Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm eyeing him up, to be honest. But then it's a precious striker spot. I think Jesus is going to have a lot to say in this as well. Not the Jesus, of course, but
we may need his help by the time. John T, what's your views on this? I mean, I guess you've mocked up a team, haven't you, in the early hours?
Yeah, I've had a look at it. Yeah, nothing about early hours, but yeah. But the one thing I was looking at is cheap players. Now, I've already mentioned Andy mentioned Holgate there. Yeah, he's someone who just keeps cropping up, and because I'm looking at that because Everton have got Watford in game week 37. So I'm looking at a bench boost really in game week 37, not in terms of stocking up on those double game weeks, in salvaging the single game weekers with good points. So my bench will have the likes of Holgate, which hopefully would be an Everton clean sheet there. And it's kind of this. I mean, this week is a case in point. I've mentioned all of those people with points on their bench, hoping other people get colds. And that's exactly what happens in the double game week. It's the single game week players, the big scorers that you bench and you really regret it. So I think that as well. And yeah, I mean, looking at that, I mean, Man City, they're arguably got the best fixtures. Leicester at home, West Brom at home, they're fantastic fixtures. We already know we can't trust Pep when it comes to team sheets there. We don't know who's going to start. There's no way I could say any of them are going to start with Jesus coming back into, or Jesus rather, coming back in. You just don't know whether Aguero is even going to start or will he be rested for one of them. I say rested, I mean kind of rotated. You just don't know. Chelsea, as you said, they could have the league wrapped up by then. West Brom and Watford, they're great fixtures. It's really tough to say, so I'm just going to stick with good players, really. The likes of Vardy I like, even though he's got tough fixtures, Man City away and Tottenham at home. But he's got either side of him. He's got Bournemouth final game at home. He's got Watford, and then he's got West Brom. I mean, part of me is tempted to wildcard this week because I kind of know the team I want. There's a few. Gabbiadini was one I was looking at because he kind of hinges. You need that kind of cheap striker, and he's the kind of hinge there. Another thing a lot of people have been talking about is the kind of real cheap players, like because you all want Sanchez. We're going to come to Sanchez, Hazard, and then you want to keep your Spurs people. So you want to keep Ali, and you want to keep Kane, and then maybe you're looking at Vardy, and then you want to keep Alonso, and then suddenly you run out of money. So you're going to need a cheap player, and he's been mentioned before, Albrighton. I think he's quite a good bet, really, 4.9. I think he's pretty much going to start, and you're pretty much going to start at least one of those game week 37 matches. So it's players like that we're looking for, really. I mean, I'd love it if there was like a 4.95 million striker. And then I was looking at 5.5 when I was constructing the team. A Phobie popped in. A Phobie and King double up. And the reason why is Bournemouth, Sunderland away, Stoke at home, Burnley at home, and then Leicester away. They're great fixtures. And Afobe is doing really well in terms of form at the moment. 5.5. Happy to have him on my bench boost. He's someone to consider.
Yeah, and I think what Luke raised is a good point about game week 38. That really is affecting my thinking, because for me, you look at someone like Chelsea. Hazard and Costa are definitely going to play at home to Sunderland in game week 38. It'll be the sign-off. It'll be an exhibition match, probably. They may have sealed the title, but it may not. It may go right to the wire. But even so, game week 38 is an important day, because we've seen things turn. I remember last season, or season before last, Walcott's hat-trick on the final day nearly turned the FBL title. A lot of things can happen in that game week. So we've got to look at 37 with 38 in mind as well, and think that 37 there'll be some rotation. 38, we should see the big names at least start, because particularly at home, because they're saying, the end of the season, lap of honour, etc., etc. So that's got to play in our minds as well. Andy, sorry, you were going to say.
Yeah, while you were chatting about cheap strikers, I think for me, to go really cheap to fit in all the big hitters, I'm going to get a Nicheby, 4.3, potentially double game week. I think as a bench boost option, it might not be great, and a single game week player might outscore him, but I think for 4.3 million, it's worth the risk for me.
He'll definitely get injured in one of them games. I'll tell you that.
I know. It's a single game week player, which we're looking for. Sorted. The other thing I was going to say about the final day is quite a few of the big teams have got really good fixtures.
They have.
I don't know, Liverpool players, I don't know if we're coming on to that later. They obviously don't have a double game, but they do have nice fixtures to win, and they've got Middlesbrough at home. United have got Palace at home. Arsenal against Everton's okay. I think Spurs got a good game. Yeah, Hull away. So all these big hitters that we're getting in, a lot of them do have good fixtures on 38. So definitely have a look at that, I think, like Luke said.
Yeah, anything can happen in 38. I mean, like you say, Liverpool at home to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough probably will be down. That could be anything, couldn't it? Yeah, it could all turn.
I don't even look at game week 38. Game week 1 and game week 38. We put all that effort into game week 1, and I've yet to know a game week 1 where the kind of template on Fantasy Football Scout or pretty much anyone I know, including myself, ever gets a good score. Sometimes you do. But you pull that in and you just don't know. It's a lottery. And suddenly you realise, oh, no, he's not going to play. Oh, actually, Firmino's their main striker now. How did that happen? And all those kinds of things. Game week 38, same thing. It's a mess. You just cannot predict it at all. And it's really tough to get a good score there. And unusual things happen. You've got to get your differentials in. But you can't predict them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't worry about game week 38 at all. Don't factor it in.
Hang on a minute, Junty, didn't you have a game week 38 where Chelsea scored about 9 goals?
Yeah,
I did, and I had that one. That was that one, and that was basically a season where it was Drogba v Van Persie, and that was it. You were either Van Persie, and I happened to be up against in all sorts of things on the final game week with my Drogba captain. Lots of Van Persie captains. So yes, but that's an example of what can happen. So Lampard gave Drogba his penalty there. So unusual things start happening in that game week.
I beat Granville with that. I had Drogba captain and saw off Granville
exactly,
in that season. But you say game week 1 unpredictable. I mean, give Andy Goddard a ring. He did all right in game week 1 season.
But he's a Leicester fan. So he's a Leicester fan, and he captained Mahrez, who I think we established was actually owned by 0.5%.
He called it though.
And he called it, but because he's a Leicester fan there. And he got that in, and there's been other ones as well. I remember Blackpool had quite a good first opening day. So any Blackpool fans doing, Brighton are going up into the Premier League. So if I decide to do something unusual and captain Knockhart, for example, or Lewis Dunk, then you never know. These are the kind of players that are going to get a game week 1 score, and then you're never going to see again. But that's what game week 1's all about.
I don't know. I think game week 38 is fun. Obviously, it's going to settle the FBL title as well, and everything can. And if there's you throw triple captains in, people who are just, I haven't played it yet. I'll play it in the last week. It's a mess, isn't it? And like you say, anything could happen. But I think we've got to look at that. I mean, I look at Chelsea again at home to Sunderland. If Sunderland are down, it was 8-2 against Wigan that season. They could win that 5-6-0. It's an exhibition game. Hazard, Costa. Anything, and mini leagues could turn on the stupidity of game week 38, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. But we're trying. I mean, we're in the job of trying to predict things, looking at stats and form and fixtures and our own personal experiences. We try and predict the kind of things that happen. And I'm saying it's game week 38 and game week 1 is the prediction. The accuracy levels are just completely out the window. So I really wouldn't really worry about it too much.
You'd still feel a lot more confident going into that week with the big hitters all in pocket with them teams there with them fixtures, rather than having the Redmonds of this world and Gabardini, which is going to happen for a lot of people after the double game week just beforehand. They're going to have loads of these mediocre players, like Albrighton, for example. Do you see him smashing in goal? I don't know. He could do. But...
Well, the thing is, I mean, for a lot of those cheaper players mentioned would probably be on my bench, but the players that would be thinking of getting in for my wild card would be players like Hazard and Sanchez. And these are players that have got good fixtures there. So I think you're going to be set up anyway. But I'm not really thinking about game week 38. I mean, Southampton, Gabbiadini, they're home to Stoke. So I mean, that's great. So you've got him in place. Then you've got Chelsea at home to Sunderland. So if I've got Jamie Vardy, well, that's Bournemouth at home. I mean, these are good fixtures, but I'm kind of not. It's kind of by chance, really. But because you never know.
Okay, let's talk Bournemouth, shall we? Because I think Josh King, I think he's a player. If you've got him, you're going to keep him, aren't you? I'm keeping him. Andy, you've got him. You keeping him to the end?
Yeah, simple as that. Really, he's doing just as well as the £8-9 million strikers, but he's only cost me 5.8, I think, or 5.5. I got him in for good fixtures, like I said, good form. I think he's like top 5 for goal scorers in Europe in 2017, something like that. Only a few behind Messi. So what more do you want, really? Good
it's crazy. He's going to be in the team of the season, isn't he? He's nowhere near it at halfway point. But he's had an incredible 2017, and I think he's going to be a wildcard pick regardless of double game weeks. Jonty, you getting him in?
Josh King?
Yeah.
What? He's in.
You got him already? Are you going to play him
for weeks and enjoying his sumptuous goals in my team? Yeah.
Are you going to keep Daniels alongside him?
Yeah, I'm keeping King is never being benched. King is just in my team, regular fixture for the duration. I mean, until he physically can't move. Daniels as well. I'm looking at that. I'm actually thinking of going down a level and getting maybe Cook in, just someone slightly cheaper if I need the money. Daniels, though, I don't know. I might just go for. I mean, the thing with my season, it's all kind of gone to pot anyway, so I might as well just do what I want to do. And I like Daniels, so I might as well just keep him.
Are you without any Bournemouth players, Luke?
I've had King for most of the second half of the season, but I actually swapped in Zaha a couple of weeks ago, which has I don't know if that's worked out or not. Actually, probably not overall. But it's already been mentioned. He's like 5.5. He's up to 6 now. 6.1 is he now?
6.1
for a striker. Essentially, who plays in midfield in FPL, scoring goals like he is. I mean, you don't get these opportunities very often. I mean, it'd be stupid to go without him, I think. And the alternatives are in that range, Redmond and Albrighton. I think I can't really think of anyone else. I don't know if anyone else has got him. Maybe Kapui as a last chance. He's got a game right at the end of the season. His stats are not too bad.
But it's the fixtures, isn't it? And I think I said it before the show. I think Bournemouth at the moment, they're safe. Eddie Howe's team are formed on the attack. They're not a defensive outfit. They play good football. They can now express themselves. We saw it against Borough. And I think in the last 4 games, Sunderland, Stoke, Burnley, Leicester, they can get goals in us. That's all they believe in. They're not going to grind out 1-0s. They're going to go for 2-3 goals. And King's going to be in profit. And a phobia as well. I mean, you mentioned him briefly, but I think if you are scratching around for a third striker, you could do a lot worse.
Is King back on penalties or not?
No, King will be back on penalties. So King has wrapped it up basically. I think he's more or less, regardless of, he's more or less essential because he enables you to get the likes of Sanchez, Hazard, and Ali for game week 37. And I think we agreed we're going to need at least 2 of those players for game week 37, particularly with their 38 fixtures in mind. Let's talk Southampton because they're a bigger problem, aren't they? They're just difficult to pin down exactly what we're going to get from them. Are we going to get goals? Where they're going to come from? Who's going to start? Clean sheets look very questionable indeed. A very mixed performance at Stamford Bridge tonight. We've got some questions on this, Jonty.
Yeah, Pep says again, is doubling up on Southampton defence a good or very bad idea? And Toby Larone, great name, is Gabbiadini worth investment for the rest of the season? And JS, simple, Ward-Prowse, Tadic or Redmond. So he's picked kind of 3 options there. In all the teams that I've tried to construct for wildcards, I've tried with Stevens and Yoshida. And I don't, and it's mainly for cost. I don't like either of them really. It's why I have misgivings about the Borough defence as well. I resisted getting Gibson this week, and I have the same resistance. And it's partly I look at the fixtures. So for Southampton, you're getting them in for those 2 double game weeks. Well, who have they got? They got Liverpool away, Arsenal at home, Middlesbrough away. Okay, possible clean sheet there, and then Manchester United at home. You never know what's going to happen there. So I think you're looking at 1 clean sheet tops, and so you'll be getting rid of. So the thing they've got going from those 2, Stevens in particular, is their rock bottom price, and at the moment they're nailed on. So 4.1 is absolutely brilliant. I like Holgate at that price as well. So I'm tempted to get both of those 2, because those 2 are quite good to play there. You can play a bench boost with them. I think you're going to get a clean sheet out of Stevens, and I think you're going to get a clean sheet out of Holgate in game week 37. And I think they're quite good enablers. But the rest of them, Gabbiadini, yeah, I'm looking at that. He got an assist tonight. I mean, it's a tough, playing the title, the title holders in waiting is tough. And they've got Hull at home next. Gabbiadini's one I'm thinking of definitely bringing in anyway a bit early. I think he'll be popular. And I think he can score against Liverpool.
I don't know. I mean, Fraser Foster's the option, isn't it, Andy? I mean, that's the one thing. You can get a keeper in for game week 37 and 36, and you're going to get 4 starts. Whereas I guess Yoshida is nailed on as it gets, but there's always a chance he could get rested for one of those games. It's not great though, is it, Southampton? I was hoping by now they'd have settled down and we'd see potential. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Johnny, really. In most of the drafts, I've got Yoshida and Stevens, but it's pretty much just down to the fact they have the extra games and they're cheap. But I think we're basically banking on them getting a clean sheet against Middlesbrough and potentially getting an attacking return somewhere. I don't really want to. I also wonder what Southampton have really got to play for now. They they're pretty much 8th is the highest they can get now, I'd say. They're not going to overtake Arsenal, not with the amount of games they got left. They finished 6th last year, so they can't even beat that either. So they're not really playing for anything. Gabbiadini, yes, everyone likes him. I kind of like him too, but Austin's coming back now. Long's there as well. Is he going to get rested? I don't know. I mean, most Southampton fans, I think all of us would say Gabbiadini is probably the best player out of those 3. But there's a high chance he gets rested, I'd say, and Austin comes back, especially for like last game of the season, etc. So I'm looking at Yoshida and Stevens as well, but it's literally a price thing. The other one I would look at, Tadic and Redmond, I don't think are coming anywhere near my team, is Ward-Prowse, and that's just because he's cheap. 5 million and on set pieces as an enabler potentially, as well as Josh King, if I'm really stuck for money. But I don't know. I like the fact they've got 2 double game weeks, but that's about it really for Southampton.
Yeah, but it's just disappointing because I was hoping Tadic would flourish by now. I was hoping Gabbiadini would rediscover his form and be convincing, but Austin coming back is a worry, like you say. Luke, any thoughts on this? Are you going all in with Southampton, or are you struggling as who?
It's been mentioned, really. It's the budget constraints. We're kind of forced that way in a way. I mean, I like Forster just because you can get the double game week out of him prior to it, when we do the wild card. So I think I'll have Forster for his first double game week. I'm not expecting too much from him, maybe a clean sheet. That's about it. But I think you've got to bear in mind the sort of effect that has on the rest of the team. It may be the difference from Pedro to Hazard. So you can't really just factor in the Southampton points alone. If you go for a more expensive player and then you have Pedro and Hazard, doubles his score, then you've kind of got to factor that in too. So I just think they'll be popular just sheerly because of the budget restraints. That's it.
No, I think that's fair enough. I think our expectations are low. It's just a shame they have to remain that way. But you're right. They enable us to get the big hitters in, and those big hitters are Hazard and Sanchez. And we're going to talk about them now. Sanchez, we haven't spoke about for 7 days. So let's get cracking with that.
Yeah, so Reaper the Horse is it worth having Hazard and Sanchez in the run-up, and especially for the double game weeks? It's pricey, but possibly worth it. I mean, I'd say not possibly. I'd say very much worth it. And Mark Harborough asks, if not Sanchez as your Arsenal option going forward, then who? And then he points. He says Giroud, Özil, Morial, and Cech maybe. And he just can't seem to justify Sanchez for the modest returns. I kind of agree with him there. He's definitely not performing. This is why I haven't got Aguero. Aguero, yes, he's been scoring, but he's not getting those double-digit hauls. And if you've got 12 million plus there, then you want much more than that. And it's the same really for Sanchez at the moment. But we're starting to see signs in it. They've changed their formation. Sanchez is moving a little bit more central, and him and Özil there. And so in terms of wildcard, I was considering Özil over Sanchez, I must admit. There's a big saving there. But we've been there before. Let's get Özil in. He's a nice cheap version of Sanchez. Hey presto, Sanchez hat-trick, Sanchez 20 points, that kind of thing. And we remember that last thing. So that's our experience possibly doing us harm, because we're sticking with Sanchez because of the fear of not having him. But I think Mark Harborough might be onto something there. There could be better options.
I don't know, Luke. You strike me as someone who's going to swear by Sanchez. You don't play silly buggers with this kind of thing. You're straight in on him, aren't you? Surely.
I think it's easy to forget sometimes that we're only playing against owned players. Like, everyone seems to just struggle to get all the points out there, but ownership is a massive factor. I think Hazard's 31% and Sanchez is 25%. So to me, they're game week killers straight away. If you haven't got them, they're going to be heavily captained and stuff like that. I mean, you can have all the plans in the world. You can have 15 double game weekers, but if you haven't got them in as captain when they explode, you're just going to be so far down. It's the safest way to maintain your rank is to have them in your team, I think. So yeah, I'll have them.
Yeah, no, I think that's where you're coming from as well. I mean, I look at it and think I can't build a 37 team, or which should be built in 36 without Hazard and Sanchez. Andy, do you agree, or do you dare to go without one of those guys?
No. There's no way I'm going into two. I know it's boring that we're all going to say the same. There's no way I'm going into two double game weeks for Arsenal without Sanchez, even though he has been awful the last few weeks. He's the only one I want, at least in attack. I think Giroud, I don't know if he's going to stick to this 3 at the back formation. It's just like, I almost feel like they've done all right, I suppose, but it's just like a last gasp attempt to get something out of the season. So Giroud's not coming near my team because it's a striker spot. I'm not interested in Ozil at all. I looked at like goal attempts and stuff. It's like 9 versus 2 for Sanchez and Ozil. So Ozil doesn't really float my boat. Walcott's out of the team now. Oxlade-Chamberlain's playing, but he's playing wing back. So attack-wise, it's really Sanchez. And I don't want to go without any Arsenal attack. So I've got to have him. And then if we're talking about other Arsenal assets, then Monreal is someone I'm interested in. Well, he's playing wing back for sure. 5.8 million is a decent price as well. So yeah, they're the 2 I'm looking at. But no way I'm going out with Sanchez. And I think Hazard's probably one of the first players on my wildcard list, to be honest, with those fixtures, especially while they've still got something to play for. What we've really got to hope is Spurs win tomorrow, and this keeps happening all the way to the end of the season. That's what, as an FPL, from an FPL only point of view, that's what we really need to happen. So yeah, Hazard and Sanchez straight on my team. Yeah,
it's absolutely critical that 37 Chelsea are still motivated to win games. I mean, they're going to be, but they're not going to be as motivated if the title's still on the line. And we need 2 games out of Hazard, really. And there's a chance if they got the title sealed, he will get rested in one of those. If not, he'll play 38 though, and I think that's the other reason I want Hazard for that final day. What would he do to Sunderland in an exhibition match?
But do you think he'll play if they've got the title wrapped up and with the cup? You've got the FA Cup final.
It's a factor, isn't it? I mean, I think he's got to start against Sunderland because it's the lap of honour situation. They're not going to. They're going to start their strongest team.
They can bring him on second.
Yeah, I think Batshuayi, or I can't say his name at all.
Batshuayi.
That's the one. I think he might get. Surely he's going to get some time towards the end of the season if they've won it. Surely he's got.
The other thing is, not only will they have possibly won it in 38, Sunderland could be down. So it's not one of those games where manager's going to get told off for making changes. It could be a nothing game for both teams.
Yeah, well, we've got to hope Spurs do us a favour, but it's still it's not going to stop us getting Hazard. I think we're agreed at the moment. We're going both. I mean, John T, I mean, do you really see? I mean, you sound like the only one of us who's like. I mean,
I've been considering it, but I mean, it's the thing with Sanchez. We know he can deliver absolutely huge hauls, and he will be well captained as well. So yeah, it's tough. I kind of feel like I need a little bit more time, but yeah, I think it's what you can get for that extra 2 million elsewhere. That's the difference, really. So does that mean getting Sané in, or having to get like a 5 million midfielder in? Or not being able to get Josh King and having to get like a 4.5 midfielder in. So it's those kinds of questions you need to be asking yourself. What will I do with that extra money? And I mean, at the moment, Sanchez is in pretty much all of the wildcard drafts I've attempted, and I think he will stay there because he is scoring at the moment. I'd be really worried if he wasn't scoring, but he has got the odd goal. He's not, he's scored in the FA Cup, he scored in the league. The new system seems to suit him a bit more. I'd like to see a bit more, but I think for me, Sanchez, I mean, he has to be.
About that new system, though, I mean, there's always a chance he could change it midway through the game week, isn't it? He's only done it a couple of games. Let's say they don't perform too well in the first
could
one.
do.
He could swap. I mean,
He could do.
I just want to throw one more name out there for Arsenal, just for old time's sake. Ramsey is like 7.5 million, I think. Does anyone think potentially he could come good in a double game week?
Not in form, though, is he? Disappointing. He's one of the season's disappointments for me because I earmarked him as having a big season. And it just hasn't happened for him, and I think he wants the 10 role. He's not going to get it. But no, for me, I mean, Ozil. It'd be nice. Ozil's a player I like in a way. I kind of got this romantic fascination with Ozil in that I want him to be a great fantasy asset. He had a period last season where it looked like he was going to do that. People for a differential might go there, but I just can't see it. I think at the back it's interesting. Monreal and Gabriel as alternatives to Koscielny. Koscielny's the one who's going to get most games, I would have said, but Monreal is interesting. That's where, for me, this system comes into its own. But Sanchez booked in, he's got to be, I think, as far as I'm concerned. And I think Hazard as well. We've just got to put those two big rocks in and drop the Josh King pebbles around them. I think that's the way to go. Okay, what's next? Jamie Vardy, is that right? Are we really
talk about wild cards. I mean, he said go back there, but I mean, I got rid of him for Kane, so I'm happy about that. Kane's done ever so well. He's a very good player.
Not a bad player, Kane.
But Jamie Vardy still scored in the week I got rid for Kane. Jamie Vardy was still scoring, and he's still putting those goals away. And Leicester, they still seem to have an enthusiasm as well. They're safe. They can't get down. They can't really do much up. But they still seem to have that enthusiasm. So that's making me think Jamie Vardy. I think they're perhaps making up for lost time. They've had such a terrible start to the season. They're just thinking, well, let's show people what we're like. So Pavalia, Jamie Vardy, surely he's as good an option as anyone. He's never rested, and he has two great games either side of that double game week. And that's what we're looking at, really. The chance of perhaps scoring against City and Tottenham in the double, but it's really looking at West Brom away, Watford at home, and then Bournemouth at home. It's a great set of fixtures. He's currently looking for a place in my team, definitely.
I think he's a player that if you're trying to make a gap up, if you're 50 behind and you've got your wild card, you definitely try and consider him because he's a captain option, isn't he, for the Bournemouth game end of the season? Maybe for Watford as well, if you're really looking to make up ground. But with 36, you've got Sanchez, haven't you, as the captain? Yeah. So it's difficult there. But I can see the appeal.
But it's what you said about the ownership as well. That's really key. So a player like Costa. So Costa's done really well tonight. He's a great, a good option perhaps now. But you're looking at Jamie Vardy. That's slightly bit cheaper, and I think you might be getting a bit more. So Costa's still really well owned, and you're not really going to make much on that. But Jamie Vardy, he's still, and a lot of people like me have got rid of him for Kane. And I think a front line of say Gabbiadini, Vardy, and Kane, that's not going to be a universal front line, I don't think. And I think that could get you some nice differential points.
Andy, your views on Vardy? Are we going there?
Yeah, I'm really interested actually, and a lot of it is the two fixtures either side. The only problem is, which I hadn't really thought about until tonight, it's obviously straight back in my mind, is Costa is, if you're buying them now, Costa's only 0.4 more, and he also has two good fixtures either side and a much better double game week for a team that's still fighting for the title. So I was really interested in Vardy until tonight, and now I'm thinking about going back to Costa instead. But me and Costa don't really get on. So yeah, I think Vardy, for the same reasons Johnny said, is a good option. Ownership's a bit better if you want a differential. And he doesn't ever get rested. And Leicester don't probably have much to play for either now, but that doesn't seem to matter, I don't think. I think they're going to go for it, especially against Bournemouth. So yeah, I like Vardy as an option, but Costa may come calling now, because I don't think, for Chelsea-wise, it's Hazard, a defender, and then probably most people won't go Pedro, so Costa's probably got a look in there for a lot of teams, if they can afford him.
Yeah, it's a turning point tonight, isn't it? Getting that first brace at home, first double-figure return at home, it's a big deal for Costa. Luke, your views on Vardy, are you tempted at all?
Yeah, I am tempted, yeah. It's just the thing of he looks more guaranteed for minutes than most. I think that's probably pretty key. I mean, a lot of people, you can look at them and sort of think, whether they're going to get minutes or not and weigh it up and stuff. And he looks like he's guaranteed 180. There is Musa. I don't know if Musa might come in, maybe shot window, but I haven't really seen much of him this season. So, I don't know. I also think that City game away in the double, I think he's got a chance of scoring against City away. That seems tailor-made to me. They're keeping a lot of the ball pushing right upfield. I mean, that'll suit Vardy down to the ground. So I reckon he could score against City. Not Spurs probably, but yeah, I think I'll be getting him, to be honest.
I agree with everything you said there. Sorry, I was seeing to a cat who was constantly scratching the carpet and getting on my nerves. Sorry about that, Luke. Yes, I mean, I think we agree then. Vardy's an interesting option, there's no doubt. But the Costa thing is, I think tonight has changed a lot because of that. For me, Costa had looked interested for a couple of matches at least. And then there was a lot of talk of him, declining markedly since the talk of the move to China. And the stats bore that up, 2 goals and 11, I think, before tonight. But now suddenly snaps into action again. And I don't think he was in many wildcard squads, but probably is going to be now. I mean, is there talk of that? I mean, is that something you're looking at as well, Jonty?
No, because it's just the cost thing and the ownership thing. So where I am at the moment, there's a couple of Costa people that I'm looking at in my mini league, and I'm not really, I'm not going to really gain on them by getting Costa in. And yes, he did get a double digit, but they're not that common. Whereas I think Vardy is. He's just that tiny bit cheaper as well. I mean, Benteke, I was having a look at forwards in forms. This is like over the last 30 days or so. Vardy and Aguero are top for forwards. They're averaging 6 there, but just behind them is Benteke, and then he's on 5.8. And then you've got this other group of which Lukaku and Afobe lead, and they're around 5. So Afobe's really good value there. He's like almost matching Lukaku in terms of form over the last month. But Benteke there. So this is the group that you're looking at, really. So if you're thinking Kane's a definite, and then you're thinking Gabbiadini perhaps. So he's not a definite in a lot, but then you're looking at that group. So in terms of Vardy, you're looking at comparing him really with Benteke. So you've got Benteke at the moment. Lots of people have Benteke at the moment. And you're looking at that, you're thinking, well, why should I get Jamie Vardy when Benteke's still getting me the goals? And he's much better value as well. 7.3 Benteke is. Vardy's 9.9. So there's a big difference there. What can you get for that 2 million? So that's the questions that Vardy considerers, if you can call that, are thinking at the moment.
And the double game week just isn't strong. I mean, the fixtures around it are what appeal, but it's a double game week. I don't see much from that. But let's just surprise us all season. Okay, let's talk about punts for game week 35 and 36. The idea here, the content is you're booking in your wild card, so you can take a gamble for 35, make 1 or 2 vanity transfers, I like to call them. I mean, it's a situation I'm in now. I'd have to take a hit, but there are players out there that could offer returns, particularly if you're chasing a gap, and particularly also if you're going to put the armband on them too. Some names, Jonty, have been bandied about, I believe.
Yeah, so I mean, we're looking at. I guess it's a Dexy 10. Here he is here, and many others. There's lots of people. The Chelsea guy was another. Lots of people asking about this. It's a simple best punt for game week 35, and there's been a lot of names. Now, there's one that quite a few mentioned that it's one I'm considering for Sigurdsson is Arnautovic. I just think. At home, he's great. I know he missed a penalty, but at home against West Ham are very, very leaky at the moment. Stoke, I'd be massively surprised if Stoke don't score against West Ham at home. And Arnautovic is involved. I think he's a great bet there. I know there's a certain Sunderland player that you wanted to mention as well, Mark.
Yeah, I think Defoe's a good. I mean, he's got the double game week as well. And much depends on how they get on against Bow, obviously. But Defoe, at home to Bournemouth. Bournemouth will give him chances, I think. It's just what Sunderland can create. So, I mean, it much depends on how they do at Borough. But I think if you're going to get a player in, if you're trying to make a gap up, get a player in and you're not going to captain, an obvious play, you go to phone, you give him the armband and hope he goes mad. He's done it this season. He's done very well for me. Luke will tell you. He used to text me every time he got me a goal. So he's a player that, has faded badly, but he could yet have a part to play if Sunderland still have something to cling to, but that's a big if. I mean, this is going out after Wednesday, so we don't know how they would have done at Borough, but he's one player. And Arnautovic, I definitely think. I just think this is a nice time to try things. It's not, at this stage of the season, we can't, the game week 34 did have some risks, but I think from this point on, it's almost going to be a template forming with the wild card and with the bench boost chip in 37. This is a chance to break from that briefly and take a few risks. Is it something you're looking at, Andy? Is there any players you're thinking, well, pre-wild card, I'm going to take a risk on?
I don't know if you call them risky, like in terms of overall ownership, but there's a lot of players that are doing well that people in my mini league don't have. So, for example, Liverpool players are probably quite well owned overall. But most people in my leagues don't have them, and they're playing Watford away. I think they scored 6 past them last time. It's away this time, but I kind of like them. And this is definitely not a punt. But again, no one in my league has him, and I'd really fancy him for a captain this week if he's fit. Is Aguero? If I could get him in without taking a hit, I'd want to get him in this week. I think against Middlesbrough, especially if they get beaten again tomorrow, maybe against Sunderland. I really want a Man City asset against them. Sané would be the other one I'd look at. De Bruyne is just playing too deep when he plays for my liking. But yeah, a Man City asset or a Liverpool asset for me, I think. And again, they're not necessarily punts in terms of like they're not owned by like 1 or 2%. But in my mini leagues, people don't own them, so they'd be good differentials for me.
Luke, are you playing with this? I mean, would you even consider taking a hit to do this kind of thing? I mean, if you're that far behind, taking a gamble and putting the armband on a hit?
Yeah, maybe. I've not really looked at it too much. I've got Negredo in my team, which I'm assuming a lot of people have. And
that's a gamble in itself, isn't it?
They're playing City. Well, yeah, and they're playing City. So I think a lot of people are in the market for a striker because they'll be looking to swap him out for 1 game week. That's certainly what I'll be doing, and I think quite a lot will be in that boat. So for me, it might be someone like Vardy if I can afford it, which in combination with a hit, I may take a hit to take Sanchez out, for example, away to Spurs and then bring him back. I may be even looking at Mahrez and Vardy combo for the West Brom on the beach theory. Just got a feeling about Mahrez towards the end of the season, wanting to put himself in the shop window and Leicester not caring. I just think, I've just got a feeling Mahrez might do something, so I might do that. Yeah,
well, shots on target. I think he's top last 4 game weeks, Mahrez. Jonty will tell us more on this. I'm sure he's got his goals imminent table lying in wait right now, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Defoe. He's top of that at the moment. Arnautovic is mentioned there. Ericsson, he's due a goal. Lots of assists, but he's due a goal. Morales as well. I don't think he's going to get much at Chelsea, though. Lanzini there, once again, not so good away. And Barkley there. So Everton players are really bubbling over. So that bodes well for game week 37 for keeping Everton players. But yeah, Defoe and Arnautovic, they're the ones I think, the stats, they're the unusual ones, I think, that could get you some points. Because I don't think they'll be well owned in a lot of people's mini leagues. Defoe's got quite good ownership overall. But as Andy said, you're looking for people, players that your rivals don't have in your mini leagues. And that's going to play a part in what I'm looking at as well. A couple already have Gabbiadini, so might avoid him this time, but definitely Vardy.
Okay, well, we've ruled out those guys we just mentioned. Defoe and Arnautovic not allowed in Fancy Island risks, so that's limited the pool of talent straight away. Let's get going then. Clean sheets. We'll start with you, Andy. Where are you going with your clean sheet?
I'm going to say that Sigurdsson is not going to keep this attacking run going. This 1 game attacking run. 1 game, always a trend. Even though, yes, we look depleted at the back, we've only conceded 2 more goals than Spurs all season. So I'm going to go for Man United against Swansea. Clean sheet. David De Gea to double up on clean sheets. Sorry, not double up. Obviously, it'll be a different game week then. But yeah, another clean sheet for me, hopefully.
Well, is he going to play Bailly and Blind again in that game, or are we going to see rest, do you think?
I don't know. I don't see how he can rest Bailly, to be honest, because if he does, then he has to play Blind and someone like Fosu Mensah, and I just think that's a step too far. He keeps mentioning Jones and Smalling that they need to be brave and they need to come back. To me, that they're injury prone as it is, so they're over injured or they're not. If they're not fully fit, then the chances are they will just get injured the game they come back because they are quite injury prone. But I just don't see how he can rest Bailly at the moment. And to be honest, the centre-backs need that much of a rest, really. I mean, you got Alderweireld was playing again at the weekend in the cup, and he's going to play all the league games as well. I don't know if he massively needs a rest, but yeah, I don't see him getting benched at the moment. I don't see how he can, to be honest.
Yeah, Blind delivered. They're good. Differential that was, wasn't it, with the bonus points. So
if he's nailed, he's a great asset. Then so he could even be one of the top scorers in game week 35 against Swansea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, clean sheet, Jonty. Where are you going?
I think it's Palace. Has to be Palace. I think it's Burnley. I'll just say, is that your one? I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, we know the thing. Middlesbrough, Burnley are amongst the worst sides for attacking, particularly away. So Palace clean sheet.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. PVA to start for you? You think surely it's coming, isn't it?
Oh, it's got to come. I mean, that's the thing. I've got to. I'm definitely going to play Daniels no matter what, obviously, and I want to play Alonso as well for those attacking turns. So one of PVA or Valencia is not going to play for me. So it depends which one. But yeah, it would be absolutely gutting to bench PVA. He starts and gets a goal and a clean sheet. I mean, he could get that. So, yeah, I mean, I think I might have to be resigned to that 1 point or 15. It's nothing in the middle with him.
It's annoying because I wanted to get PVA for this fixture because it's the kind of, we've said before with him, he delivers on fixture, doesn't he? And home to Burnley is a great one.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, if he plays against Spurs, there's a chance he could get rested for the Burnley game. So it's not certain at all. So you can't do it, really. I can't punt on that. It's difficult. But I do agree, clean sheet could be on the cards there. Luke, you obviously were going to go Palace, so that one's gone. You're going to have to conjure another one. Go on.
I'm debating between City and Spurs. I think I'll go Spurs. I honestly think Spurs at home, great defence. Arsenal have been terrible away in the main in the last few sort of months. And I know it's a derby, anything can happen, but I just think they're going to shut Arsenal out. The defence is too good. I just think they're going to keep them out.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't see it. I think there's going to be quite a few goals in there. I think Arsenal, I don't know. I think that's their season now, their Spurs game. They've got to try and, they're going to try and ruin their title chances, and that's what they're going to play for. It's a big, big game for Arsenal, I think, because of that. Certainly for Arsenal fans, it will be. So I think there'll be goals in that. But there's not a lot left. There's scraps. I'm going to go Hull at Southampton. I think Hull have got everything to play for. I think they're going to nick a 1-0. And Big Harry again with returns. I'm just not convinced by Southampton at all. I just think it's a mismatch. I don't know what his strongest team is. I think Gabbiadini will probably get another hour. Would he impress? I don't know. You look at that thing and think, well, this is a game where Gabbiadini will get back on the score sheet and show us why we need him for 37. I hope so, because I want him to convince me to get him in. But I don't know. I fancy Hull in that. I think they're playing all right and might well turn their away form around with a 1-0 there. So I'll go that, but it's slim pickings. Fancy on this then. Andy, to you first.
I'm going to go for Niang against Liverpool. I think Liverpool bottle jobs. They're gonna bottle top 4 potentially. I think Watford, admittedly, not looking great at the moment, but I think if any team can give up a goal, it's going to be Liverpool. So yeah, Niang for me.
Yeah, I mean Liverpool. It's a strange performance against Palace, and Niang's a handful. On his day, can do it. But it's not an easy game that for Liverpool. They can't go there. Watford got nothing to play for, but Niang is a player who can express himself. John T, fancy on a risk?
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed this guy. He's a risk because there's absolutely no guarantee he'll start. But Jesus even. I just think if I'm allowed him, I know he's obviously a prolific striker once he can, but I just don't know if he'll start. I don't know if he'll get any minutes. He might not get any minutes in the derby. So I'm saying this before the Manchester derby. We just do not know.
I think he'll be on the bench, won't he?
That's the risk, yeah. And so I suspect he'll be on the bench. I suspect he'll come on. So I'm basically banking on him impressing in about 20 minutes. So that's why I think he's quite a good risk this week.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. We'll take that. And Luke, where are you going?
I've already mentioned it. I think I'm going to go Mahrez and just going to back it and just bring him in and just go on nothing but last season's form and hope he wants to put himself in the shop window. And the fact that West Brom seems to be on the beach. I do think Origi's really good as well, by the way. I was half tempted to do him just because they're playing Watford and he looks like he'll start. I mean, I assume he will because Sturridge is injured again, isn't he? So I think he's a good shout as well. But obviously I'll go Mahrez.
Yeah, I think Mahrez is a big shout, actually. I think you're right about him wanting to play at the end of that season. It's some motivation. I think there's a good chance he's going to make the move in the summer. Where he's going, we don't know. But West Brom, it's funny that Pulisic teams have seen it before. They hit 40 points and they go missing. He's going to try and get something out of that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think Robert Hoof in that game as well. He's a big goal threat at the end of the season. Looking very good indeed. More since Shakespeare took over, 11 shots on goal more than any other defender. I think Hoof's a bit of a risk. Another player for the double game weeks as well, I think, and the fixtures around it is Robert Hoof because he gives you that goal threat if you're not going to get clean sheets. But my fancy on this, I'm going to go Markovic. He's a player I think he's been done really well for Hull, and I think they're going to win that game at Southampton, like I say. And I'll go Markovic for some points. He's stats-wise impressing, so is good as he on the other side, but I think Markovic again to get some points out of that game. I really back Hull in that. So that's my fancy on risk. Green Wimble if you're keeping score. Let's do captains and transfers. I toyed with the wild card, but I think I'm going to leave it. Just don't know what I'm going to do with my transfer as yet. I think it's going to have to be at the back because I'm short there. Gibson's going to go. I really regret getting Ben Gibson. I should have got Maguire. Not sure I'm going to go Maguire now for Gibson, but Gibson's going out, and I'm looking for a replacement. It would be PVA if I could be sure he's going to play against Burnley, but I'm not. I'm not absolutely sure. So I don't know. It's going to be a defensive acquisition. It's going to be Gibson out, but I don't know where I'm going with that. And captain, it's a difficult one. Come back to me on that at the end of the show. Come back to me. Andy, where are you going with your captain and transfer?
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling too, to be honest. I may need it depends on Valencia, really. I may need a transfer at the back, but I don't think I'm going to do that if I've got a 1 week punt going. I'm probably going to. I kind of agree with Luke. I think Sanchez is potentially just a blank this week, but I don't think I'm going to take him out when I've got Son in my team as well. So I like Sané as an option. Maybe Hazard, maybe a Liverpool mid. I don't know. I'm struggling this week, to be honest. I feel like I've got a free punt, but I really don't know what to use it on. So yeah, probably a Liverpool mid or Hazard, I expect. And then captain, I've currently got it on Benteke, but I feel he's just going to fail because he's done well in the double game week. I've had that on him since before he scored the 2 goals against Liverpool, but I don't know now. Can I go against? Sorry, I probably shouldn't go against Kane. He does well in London derbies, so I don't know. I might captain whoever I bring in. I don't know who that is yet.
My God, there's lots of indecision here. Jonty, are you going to be more decisive?
Sort of. I've got basically. I'm looking at weak links, and I perceive Sigurdsson. I could be famous last words there. I perceive Sigurdsson to not have a great fixture there, and he's someone I'm not going to keep in my wild card. So I'll be looking at him to say Sané, Pops, or Arnautovic. But if I don't do that, I'll bench him, and I'll be playing whoever I get in for Negredo, which would possibly be Gabbiadini or Rashford if I get some hint that he's going to play, because he's playing against Swansea potentially. But that's only if you get a Mourinho hint. So I'll probably avoid that one. Gabbiadini probably there. Captain, it's been on Kane all week. I don't think it's going to move from Kane. Andy mentioned North London derby. It's just Kane at home. I believe it's at home. Is just sensational. Arsenal is still leaky, and he's got a great record in North London derbies. It just seems a nice, safe, comfortable option. Also, Kane's a bit of a differential in my mini league still, and this is great. There's only I was the only one with him a couple of weeks ago. A couple more have joined, a couple of rivals. I don't think a lot of them are going to be getting him in immediately for the North London derby. So for me, he's a nice differential.
Luke, where are you going? I mean, it's difficult. I mean, the captain's decision is difficult again.
If I had Kane, it would be Kane all day. I really fancy him to score against Arsenal. I think they're going to blow them away, personally. But I don't have him. So I think I'm going to do what I said, which is going to be Negredo and Sanchez out for Mahrez and Vardy, and captain Vardy, probably. Just go for it before the wild card.
Some Maverick stuff. I'm glad we got you about, because that is outstanding Maverick stuff. I mean, that comes off for you. Fair play. Kane. Obviously, I'm looking at Kane and Benteke again. Now, the reason why I'm being cautious here is because last week, of course, I categorically said I was going with Kane, then changed my mind to Benteke and got lambasted for it. Although Did started to send me an email saying he's with me for that. But I've got to be careful, haven't I? I've got to be careful what I commit to. I think normally I would go Kane for sure, but I mean, you say Arsenal are leaky at the back, but they look a bit more robust in this system, and I think they're going to keep it for the Spurs game. So I think it's tougher now than it was about 2 weeks ago. I think if Arsenal turned up with 4 at the back and the old Arsenal defence, I'd say yeah, but they're not going to concede much, I don't think, to Spurs. But then Spurs are
really
very, very strong
at the back, and Eriksen out wide and stuff. Oh, nah, I think
they're matching them up, aren't they? I think it's going to be fascinating to see what system Spurs play and what system Wenger turns up with as well. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I think Kane is the obvious choice. Benteke, I agree, Andy. I think we've pushed our luck there with this double game where he's delivered. Is he going to do it again? I mean, Burnley's a great fixture, but they've got people who could probably deal with it.
Yeah, I always worry about captaining someone against Burnley, because like on their day they can be tight when they want to be, even away from home. It's the same reason I didn't like Lukaku against Burnley, and obviously they put 3 past him, but he only got 1 goal. So I never like captaining someone against Burnley, home or away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It probably is going to be Kane for me, and it's going to be a defensive transfer. Sigurdsson I'm going to bench, and King's coming off the bench to play for me. Josh King, another option I could look at, but I don't know. It's good enough to get him in my team at last. I've been on my bench for 3 weeks. Okay, thanks, gentlemen, for another Scoutcast. Thanks, Luke, for joining us and bringing your Maverick ways with you. We needed some of that. Sorry about the indecision elsewhere, but it's a tough one. We'll be back for game week 36, where my wildcard will be active. Andy, your wildcard be active? I'm sure it will be.
For sure, yeah. I think we all will be.
Yeah, Jonty as well?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, I'm still, part of me still.
You're going to play at 35, aren't you?
Part of me's contemplating it because players like Vardy and they've got good fixtures, and I want to be in Lukaku. That's the thing. He's not got a great fixture. So, I don't know. I probably won't though. I probably won't because I think it's important to get as much information as you can. I think we're going to get more information after this weekend, particularly around Southampton and Chelsea and Spurs.
Yeah, that's it. Luke, will you be joining us with a wildcard active 36?
Yeah, got to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be. Then that's when the bum fight starts. We'll see what we can squeeze in. I'll be up at 4 in the morning and have another go at that game week 37 lineup. Best of luck to everyone on a wildcard this week. It's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night all.